Have you ever wanted to be able to see into the future of your business and understand where money's coming in from, how you can allocate money and all that kind of stuff? Well, guess what, guys? That's forecasting. And in today's podcast, you're going to learn exactly how to do that. And I want to add as well right now, if you're tuning into this podcast through an audio, you may want to go and watch this over at the Facebook page or on YouTube, because Danny actually runs through some screen share of some tools that he uses, which is also available to you guys for the grand price of $0, which you can get through the siteshed.com. Head across to the episode that you're listening to currently, and you'll be able to get access to that as part of the free resources. So head across to the show notes for this episode or any one of these 3 series, and you'll be able to get access to the form, which will take you straight to where the resources live for this. But again, guys, go and tune in and watch it, because what you can see here, we do talk you through it, of course, in the audio, but what you can see is actually a practical example of how you can start manipulating some of these numbers within your business to suit your operations. It's absolutely invaluable. Enjoy the show, guys. I can't wait to hear your feedback and comments on this. And please, if you do use the resource, let us know in the Facebook group. Let us know how you're using it and what it's done to improve your business, because I can tell you right now, anyone that grabs hold of it, it's going to be a revelation for you. So enjoy the resource, enjoy the show, and I look forward to hearing your comments. Today's podcast has been proudly brought to you by Tradie Web Guys. Tradie Web Guys work with tradespeople only on their websites and marketing solutions to help them stand out from their competition. Everything from web design through to SEO, search engine marketing, content creation, you name it, guys. It is a customized solution for trade-based organizations, and it's fantastic. Head across to tradiewebguys.com.au/apply, fill in the form, and let's have a conversation.
Giving tradies and contractors around the globe the tools to run a modern business. You're listening to Toolbox Talks from the Site Shed. Now here's your host, Matt Jones.
Hello, listeners and viewers. Welcome back to the Site Shed podcast. Thank you for watching or listening. We're a video podcast for you guys that have been listening for years. You can actually view this now on our Facebook page, in the Facebook group, and of course over with our friends at YouTube. This is the second episode of the Measuring What You Manage, the only way to run a profitable trades business at scale series that I'm conducting with Danny from BT Academy, who is back by popular request. Danny, welcome back.
Hey, man, what's going on?
In the first episode, we were talking about budgeting, where Danny gave some amazing insights as to how you can create a budget for your business. And we also touched on, some important things you can do, life skills wise from personal budgeting. This episode, we talk about forecasting. So now we're taking a lot of the information that we learned in the first episode there, and we're going to translate that into how to forecast correctly. So do go back and check those ones out. You'll probably find it will make a bit more sense to you. Danny's left some resources behind as well, guys. So head across to the show notes for these episodes, and you just fill in the form there, and it'll take you straight to the resource page with all the cool stuff that Danny's left behind. Danny, forecasting. Okay, so we've got budgeting out of the way, which is absolutely essential. Once we've got the budget out of the way, I suppose then we're in a position where we can forecast. Let's talk a little bit about what forecasting is, so for those that aren't familiar, a better understanding. And then also for those of you that think you know what forecasting is, you may find that it's a little bit more granular than you expected. So what is it?
I mean, my definition in my mind is it's being able to rely on the law of averages to project a hypothetical future that you can work towards as a goal. That to me would be what it would be, right? It's you're not just guessing. You're utilizing past data to figure out what your averages are. You're then making your best educated guess on what the future would look like, and then you work your balls off towards making that actually happen in reality.
Mm-hmm. Well, breasts for you ladies.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, and forecasting is one of those things that I suppose becomes more and more relevant once you kind of need to have data to tweak, right? I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say it's our first year, anyone's first year in business. You kind of got to go and just book work and produce it and figure out what your customer is and what your product is. And you'll start to see your numbers come in, but it's hard to know what's what until you get about 2, maybe even 3 years in.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, I suppose we shouldn't let that detract people from actually understanding the principles behind forecasting, because essentially it aids the budgeting process in the sense that you're kind of trying to see into the future to see what's potentially coming. I mean, you can certainly forecast on a basic level, which I'm sure we're going to get into, like things if there's, you've got progress claims coming up next month, and that certainly adds to forecasting. It's one of those things where it could get deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper in terms of different departments and, forecasting. Okay, we know we're going to need to bring another project manager in to complete this role, which means it's going to cost us the business this much money. So we're going to make sure we've got that much money in the company, blah, 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 so on and so forth. So I suppose knowing where to start, the most important thing for guys out there. So what do you recommend in that space?
Yeah, well, we started with budgeting, and we talked a bit about it in the last episode. I think you need to start with the financials, right? The numbers in the company, the financial numbers of the company kind of dictate everything. If I screen share, will people be able to see what I share?
Yeah, the guys that are watching will, for sure. And we get loads and loads of people watching this stuff now on Facebook especially. So, and for those of you guys that are listening in, then we'll just talk you through it, and then you can go and get to the resource, I guess.
Oh yeah, I'll verbally just try and explain as best I can for those who are just listening.
Yeah.
So we've been talking about this the whole time, and I figured I might as well just pull it up so everyone can kind of see. This is a dashboard of one of our members. So this is a hypothetical example actually, but it's basically what most of our members are all using. Mm-hmm. So everybody has an annual goal and they have an annual actual that they're pitting against here. And so it's on sales, revenue, closing ratio, lead rate, lead capture rate, charge rate, financial revenue variables, gross profit percentages. So forecasting is being able to get to a point where you can confidently set up these types of numbers and know the background, what it takes to actually get here. Mm-hmm. Right. So one of the things we gave you for download, I think is one you said a lot of people are using now. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Here's our budget, right? So we can see last year's actuals. Now we're forecasting for this year. Looks like we're trying to make a 4% change on labor. Looks like we're planning on some growth. So we're going to grow by $2 million, which is a big, decent growth amount. So it means we need more vehicles, we need more fuel, we need more insurance. And it's logically thinking through all these things and getting it down to a profit number that you're happy with. And now going into the next stage of this is a lot of what we talked about last session, taking this and breaking it down, right? So this is a sales plan. We could actually work one out with everybody right now as we go through this, but we use that example in the last call of $1 million. So if you do $1 million a year and you have an average job size of, Matt, give me an average job size you'd say a lot of people have.
I don't know, let's say 12 grand.
$12,000. What this form is doing is it's automatically calculating how much revenue needs to be done, how many jobs need to be booked, how many estimates need to be executed on, how many leads need to be generated, and then it's breaking it down by week. Mm-hmm. Now to top it off, a lot of people say, well, this is cool, but how do I adjust for seasonality, right? Mm-hmm. So there's one other thing you want to do is you want to think month by month. How much are we going to do in jobs in January versus February versus March? Is it going to be more or less? So if you guys come in and download this form, it'll actually start to allow you to adjust the percentages of year end. So you can weight the off season to be lower, the on season to be higher. Mm-hmm. And it starts to tell you, you got to do $4,000 a month and $5,000 a month and $15,000 a month. And it gives you a pretty good indicator of the path you're about to head down to get to that $1 million mark. So the difference between setting a goal that's, very willy-nilly, I want to hit $1 million this year, and actually working that goal backwards is this. People do not always take the time and effort to do this. We built some formulas in this, so it makes it a lot easier, because I used to do this just manually. Yeah. I'd be writing it down. But with this little tool, it actually does it for you. And what's cool about this is you can start to see goal versus actual. You can start to actually see how much did we get this week versus the original goal, and overall, are we ahead or behind on the goal for the year? So ultimately what these will do is they'll start to give you confidence in your numbers, and you can see slight variances. Hey, our average job size was originally planned to be at $12,000, but it's currently at $11,000. So that means we either got to do more quotes or we got to figure out how to book a slightly bigger job moving forward. So that in a nutshell is sales forecasting that's built off of a budget.
No, Matt, that's for you guys out there listening and not watching this. I dare say go and watch it. It's pretty amazing when you can just plug numbers into a spreadsheet and see how everything just relates back to the bite-sized chunks, which I think is, at the end of the day, but that's what makes things come real. When you go, okay, I just need to do 2 of these a week. I need to do 3 of these a week. How the hell am I going to do that? So it's so much easier than looking at the annual and go, well, I need to be doing, I need to sell 1,000 of these jobs. Okay, it's too hard to comprehend.
A lot of people will go out there, they'll pound on, getting more work, and all of a sudden they got more work than they have people. And they're like, right? And now you're in a reactionary recruiting process. So even in this section, what does it take to produce $1 million? So you put in your revenue goal, you put in, that's 100,000. You put in your average charge rate. So not everyone will know what this is, but it includes material. So it's on average, if you have a crew working for a week, say 2 guys working for a week, how much can they produce? Let's say somebody tells me, I'll just throw a number out there, $10,000. I'd be like, cool. So each guy can do $5,000 a week, that by the 35 or 40 hours they work, and you get an average hourly charge rate.
Mm-hmm.
Does that kind of make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So let's just call it 65 for now. This will now tell us how many produced hours we need to have our team working out in the field to know exactly how much we need to do to produce this amount of revenue.
Mm-hmm.
So if we don't have enough people hired, or if the guys aren't producing 40 hours a week, they're doing more like 25 because of weather or whatever, we can start to see that coming up and start to make sure we adjust. So it's not just about booking work. It's about being able to produce the work, because you don't make any money off booking work.
Right.
You make money off producing work.
Right.
And you need to make sure you keep that rhythm, again, build backwards week by week, and you can see goal versus actual through the whole thing. So this is like the holy grail of like being able to track your business from a contractor's perspective. And this is what pretty much gives all of our guys complete control to play around with the financials. So COVID happens and we start to look at their overhead. We start to look at, decreasing revenue by, a certain percentage and see what the impacts are. Then you go over to your sales and see what that means for sales. Like often when COVID first hit, the first thing that a lot of us were thinking was our closing ratios are going to drop, our average closing ratio. So we dropped those down from say 50% to 40%, saw how many more leads we need to generate. You have complete control because you can see it in advance and start to allocate accordingly, time, money, and resources.
Oh, super valuable. So good.
Yeah. So I think down for download for everybody. And this is for a lot of our members, their kind of go-to place to make decisions off of.
Yeah. So, I don't even know if we really need to go much further into forecasting. Do we? Like this is
at its core, it's being able to understand how your financials dictate your sales plan, which dictates your production plan, which dictates your weekly and monthly activities. To no longer be, there's a difference between like blind risk and educated risk. And this is that difference, right?
Mm-hmm.
I go to a lot of conferences and see a lot of people on stage beat their chest and say like 10x your business and all these, big flashy things. And to be honest, it's kind of, I'm over it. It's kind of disgusting, to be honest. It's kind of false dreams.
Mm-hmm.
I think what people need to understand is the reality is you want to 10x your business, type it in here for a second.
Yeah.
See how many leads that's going to be. See how many working hours that's going to be. See how many people you're going to have to recruit. And then ask yourself, what's actually realistic? And you can start to really be a lot more down to earth with your planning and build a real company, right? It's good to dream. I mean, I have big dreams too, but I'm also a realist and I execute on the things I say. And long term, it seems to be working.
And I think the difference between a dream and a goal is typically like the goal will have a strategy like this, like where you can actually apply things and you've got a path to get there, whereas a dream is just something that would be a nice to have, without actually having any way of getting there.
Totally. So
I love that. That's awesome. I mean, you know what? Let's wrap this up, guys. Go get the download. It's just going to save you a lot of grief. So head across to thesiteshed.com, go to the show notes for this episode, go to this podcast, and you'll be able to get access to it through Danny's resource page. Has that been updated, Danny, as well? Do we need to update that one on the maybe?
You know what? If it hasn't, we'll definitely take a look at the end of this podcast and figure it out.
Rock and roll. All right, mate, let's come back in the next episode. That was quite short, but it was short and sweet. So let's come back in the next one and we'll talk about accountability, and that will wrap up the series for measuring what you manage, the only way to run a profitable trades business at scale. Guys, we've been talking with Danny Kerr from Breakthrough Academy out of BC in Canada. The website's btacademy.com. You can reach Danny through the website. His email is danny@btacademy.com. And also, if you want to get access to his calendar, you will be able to do so through the page that I just spoke about, his resource page on the SiteShed website. Okay, that's all. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about the final episode, which is going to be accountability. Danny, thanks again. Look forward to chatting to you soon.
Awesome, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Toolbox Talks. If you're liking what you hear, then you can head across to thesiteshed.com where you can join our community by signing up to our Toolbox Talks. You'll get sent a weekly notification, which is basically a highlight of everything that we've spoken about during that week, along with any other industry news that may be relevant or specific to the trades. If you're enjoying the show, you can head across to iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud, where you can leave us a review. That would be fantastic, and all the reviews get read out in the show. Likewise, if you have any friends or colleagues that you think would benefit from the show and the episodes that we create, then please go ahead and share it with them.